ISO FileMaker Magazine, the professional's resource for FileMaker know-how.
Hey there, Matt Petrowski here for ISO FileMaker Magazine, which you can always find at FileMakerMagazine.com. In this video, we are continuing with part 2 of using the Monkeybread plugin. Now, part 1 was all about the free stuff that you have that is available. We're going to be talking about how to best go about learning and using what's available in the Monkeybread plugin, because there is close to 7,000 functions. Who's going to know what's useful and what isn't, or how they find out whether they will do what they want with 7,000 functions? Well, that's what I'm going to be showing you in this video. All right, so how do you even get started with the Monkeybread plugin, and what is the easiest route that you can take in order to go from I need to both understand and use the functionality to just getting it in your solution because you want to keep solving problems? Well, my suggestion is you always create a file that you're going to play with. So I've got an empty file right here, the Monkeybread plugin. And the number one thing that you're always going to need access to, of course, as a developer, is documentation. So when you go to the Monkeybread website, there you can use the documentation right here on the website, which is completely fine to do. We'll click on the documentation link, which will take us there. And of course, if you're limited by a particular area, then his documentation is absolutely wonderful. In fact, as he implements things, he does such a thorough job of documenting them that you really don't have to spend a whole lot of time digging into the documentation, because he already has examples. There's already examples for what you can want to do that you can pretty much copy and paste and then just adapt to however you're implementing them. So first off, we've got all components right here: Mac OS, Windows, iOS, or server. So immediately you can see whether or not what you're trying to do is available by simply filtering based on any one of these. For example, I'm doing an iOS solution, and knowing what is possible on iOS versus what isn't is a really great place. I just click it right here. You can see it's purple. If you're doing a server-side script, you of course are going to click server. Now, of course, if you have an older version, then you can limit yourself to that version. Topics is where I end up going a lot, where this is the best place to spend time to understand even what is possible out of all of these. He's almost going to hit 7,000 functions here. If there is an area of interest, you of course just go into it. And some of the things you have to remember, just like FileMaker, as FileMaker adds new functionality, in order to stay backwards compatible, certain things get deprecated. Now, you have to read the documentation to know whether a particular function is deprecated. For example, this archive that we have right here, archive replaced some of the older functions, which actually did how the older versions of the plugin were using zip or different technologies to compress something. So if you ever needed to have something from a FileMaker container, send it out to the operating system, compress it with a zip, attach it to an email, and then send it from FileMaker, well, you have to know that. And he makes note in the documentation of when there is something. But you can go through and look at a lot of these. AV asset, AV player, recorder. You can see the ones that I have used over time by the fact that they're purple. I've clicked and gone in them. I've used his barcodes, clipboard, compression, contacts. If you need to do anything with the, this is probably Apple only. Anything with containers. This is iOS. iOS again. I've been looking at using his plugin for iOS. There are certain features that replicate what FileMaker can do. And I'll show you in this video how I actually approach using not just the MBS plugin, but pretty much any plugin where I want the flexibility, where I don't sprinkle that code throughout all of my script where it might be more difficult. The key is I use a custom function. I use my own custom function as a wrapper around whatever functionality that I'm using, whether it's the MBS or the base elements or whatever plugin it is, if I'm going to anticipate that, one, either FileMaker will implement it natively, or two, I might want to switch to another technology, another plugin, or calling to the shell, what have you. So the best thing to do is, if you have something that you're working on, let's say it's something related to PDF, just go into that area and then read what is possible. So everything is prefixed by initially what the function is. Let's see if I can, no, I can't highlight that right now. What the function is, and then you have the actual functionality right after that, where you can see what can I do with a PDF. Now, as I've always stated in a lot of my other videos, what Christian has in this plugin in many cases are open source libraries that you can also access through other technologies. But what's advantageous about the plugin is it's all already here, and it's all in an easy to use wrapper, meaning you just are calling a FileMaker function. You don't have to go use, the alternative is you'd have to go get the base elements plugin, you'd have to install the external technology or the library, whatever's being used, make sure that it's in the right place, make a call from the base elements plugin to the shell. You then have to handle whether or not that executes correctly or not, whereas in this solution, if you're wanting to do, let's say, graphics manipulation, we'll go back to our topics, and then I will type in image, because I know that it's image magic, or it might be graphics magic. Let's type in, let's do a find. There we go. Graphics magic is what he's got it right here. So if you need to do anything, I mean any kind of image manipulation, Graphics Magic is an open source library that is implemented here into the MBS plugin. Now, you're saying probably in your mind, Matt, this is great, but I don't want to take the time. When do I need to understand affine versus, smooth quadratic curve to rel, whatever? Go to Stack Overflow. If you're a FileMaker developer worth anything, go to search the internet, you end up at Stack Overflow, put in the actual name of the function, you'll find out how it's used and in what other areas. That's if you actually even know that you might need to use it. So this is how you're going to have to fish through all of these different things. For the most part, if I wanted to find out how to manipulate an image using Graphics Magic, one, I know that the Monkeybread plugin has Graphics Magic. Now that I know that the name of the technology is Graphics Magic, I'm now going to go search places like Stack Overflow and search for things like Graphics Magic Resize image. And in here, you can even, while you're looking at the documentation, just go into your find in the browser and type in Resize. Now, some things have completely oddball names. I'm thinking about this from the standpoint of having used Graphics Magic. For example, the command line tool has this really funky named binary called Mogrify, which I'd be interesting to even know in here. Mogrify? No. So what happens is Christian actually probably, there's that funky word, he has abstracted some of the odd sounding things that they have in these open source libraries to things that are actually make sense, like resize, rotate, etc. So you can come in here and you can actually search based on those things. Now, the great thing is once you get to the actual thing, so if I know I want to resize an image, in here I have to know that the Monkeybread plugin is going to have to read the image from a container, get that into memory, and then resize it. I can see that because of this value right here called image reference. So if you're not familiar with advanced FileMaker programming, a lot of things have to happen in a sequence of steps. FileMaker makes things really easy for us, and we just have one function, and that one function does what we want, a lot of the times magically. The Monkeybread plugin implementing libraries means that you have to get a little bit of the understanding of the sequence that has to happen. The wonderful thing about this is that there are examples for everything. Not only are there examples in the documentation where you can simply just copy and reference the code. So in other words, Christian's already giving me the answer right here that I say, here's this, if I want to resize an image, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take new from container. So, I knew that I wanted to resize. I found the function resize. Resize is now going to give me the example of the sequence of steps that I need to follow. I need to get from my container into memory a particular image. Once I get that image in, I need to then resize it. I'm going to resize it into a variable. I'm going to pass it the parameters and the values that it needs. Because remember, these are external technologies, so he's just abstracting them into FileMaker functions. You're still going to have to pass those, they call them flags or options, into the actual, so into this GM resize, you're actually passing the same thing that you would pass if you were doing this on the command line of values, these values right here. Then you're going to actually have to write that image out. Then you're going to have to release it from memory. So most of using the Monkeybread plugin, and when it's using external libraries, unless it's just a single function call, there is a sequence of steps that you need to follow. Now, how you do this is up to you. In this scenario, we can see that he is giving you an example of doing this using script steps with multiple set variables. That's not the only way that you can do this. Many times you can do this all within one let function. And I've done this. This is where you can create a single custom function that if your solution is doing something, I will take all of the functions themselves and I will put them as a sequence of local variables within a let statement. And then I will make that one custom function do what I want, called Resize container. And the Resize container will do the in and the out and the release. And basically do things the way that I want. Now, the second place that you can get examples is right from his own folder of examples. There is a massive list of those. So we'll go over to the Finder. And here I have, when you do the initial Monkeybread download, you get this massive folder that includes everything. It includes the iOS plugin, the plugin for Linux, the plugin for Mac, the plugin for Windows, everything. But there's this all-important critical folder called examples. This one folder, when you open it up, is going to have literal FileMaker files that you can copy and paste from and adapt. So here we are with the graphics magic. If I want to understand anything, look at all of these examples for pretty much anything that you could want to do. So the examples is the first place that you should go to once you get that little bit of understanding. So if we went to the Monkeybread plugin, and let's say we did not know that graphics magic is what allows us to resize. So right here on the topics page, I know that my objective is to resize something. I go into the find on the browser, and I type in resize, and I get this right here, not found. Okay, I'm going to deviate, and I'm going to put in image right here. Okay, I can now at least go through this, but image didn't get me to anything related to graphics. In fact, graphics magic was never even highlighted right here. My suggestion is to use the Dash application, at least if you're on Macintosh. So as I switch over to it right here, what I love about Dash is the Monkeybread plugin, or Christian, provides a Dash file for all of his custom functions, and that's when you are going to search. It will find what you want based on the keyword that you need to use. Now, he's got this search site right here, which is nice. He's probably using a Google image, and I've never actually used this. But let's put in resize right here and search cite it. Right there. It actually did. He is using a Google search engine on his own website. So there we go. Even if you don't use Dash, there's the easy way to find how you're going to resize an image, and that Google search engine will probably do, a more than adequate job. But for what I do, I use, and I believe if we go to the documentation, I don't know where he's got it on here. Let's find if he's got Dash on here. He has it in the sidebar. Christian, if you watch this video, one of the things that I would suggest is on the actual documentation page, putting a link to your Dash on here, your Dash file for the Dash application. But he does have it on the sidebar right here. You go to Dash. You're going to be able to download that. It is right there for the MBS FileMaker plugin help. Here's information on how to install it. once you have it installed, for me to do a resize, all I do here is do a a Control F. I'm already selected in the Monkeybread plugin. You can see that up at the top here, I can have multiple documentation sets. I have FileMaker, JavaScript, CSS, HTML, and Monkeybread open all at one time. So if you're an advanced FileMaker developer, this plugin is the way to go if you're going to do things. I even have the Apple documentation here for creating an iOS application using an application delegate. So I can type in resize right here, and it will come up with all of the instances where resize actually shows. Matrix resize, window resize, QL preview, regex resize, etc. This is hands down the easiest way to find, based on common terms in your mind, of how you're going to do something. I go to GM resize, and there it is right there. But again, if you're starting out with the plugin, because my default is to go to this and then just I just want to get my problem solved. I get the documentation, I copy his functions from here. I need to, pull into memory, modify, and then release. I know that's the sequence because I'm familiar. If you're not familiar, I am absolutely going to this examples folder. I am going to the graphics magic folder once I find it, and then I'm going to say, okay, what do I want to do right here? Is resize in here? And again, you can actually go into the folder, and then here on the Finder, if this was a full Finder window, I could use the search feature if it was in here and just search for resize. But of course, I'm going to be able to find it right here, scrolling pretty quick. I've got reduce image, rotate orientation. Let's go right here. Converting an SVG to a PNG. You don't want to use JavaScript to do that? I mean, shoot, let's just open it up. The great thing about opening this up off of a read-only disk, because I'm on a read-only disk version, I've got this opened up as the container right here. Where is it? Right there. You can see right there that I've got it opened up as the read-only disk. When I go into the examples, I know that I can't accidentally modify this example, meaning I can't screw it up, but I can still copy from it. I can go into the scripts. He has this. Is this locked down? Or is it locked down? That's maybe interesting. In the past, I did this when I was first learning, but let's go ahead and take this over here, SVG to PNG, and see if that's actually a FileMaker issue. I've got to get to it right here. Sorry, I'm looking off screen because I know, well, that's just messed up right there. I'm taking too much time to do that. I'm going to throw this into something that I know I can actually access right there. And open that up. And yes, I guess you can't open files. You used to be able to open read-only files, and you were able to copy and paste them, go into scripts. In other words, right now I can go up to the scripts and I can see that the script workspace is available, but that's because I copied this file to my hard drive. So revise my strategy. If you're going to be learning the plugin, copy the examples folder to your downloads, and that way you're going to be able to get into it. It used to be that FileMaker did allow you to open up on a non-writable drive and simply open something and then go into the scripts. But I guess FileMaker changed that, and you're not able to go into the scripts and copy things and copy the fields. So don't take that initial advice. Take this advice and copy the whole examples, or copy just the one example that you need in order to go learn from. And that's what we'll open up right now. And so here I am. I can actually see he's got an SVG right here as a text file, which is what an SVG is. And he is converting it and making it into a PNG. So say you have a FileMaker database of thousands of SVGs and you want to convert them all to PNGs. The code's already done for you. It is simply a matter of finding the example that does what you want to do. Encryption and hashing. I mean, it is literally go through whatever you want here. Barcode. You need to create a QR barcode. You don't need to take the time to do that. The code is right there in the example. You're just going to copy it and adapt it to your solution. All right, and so as a wrap up to this video, I'm just going to not do a full rehash, but obviously just give you the lowdown. Install the Monkeybread plugin. Figure out what you need to do. figure out what the terminology is in order for what you want to solve, and then see whether there is an example that's available. Go into the examples. If you're an advanced developer and you're dedicating to the Monkeybread plugin, absolutely install Dash if you're on a Mac and get the Dash install. Makes the documentation much easier. Otherwise, what you've got the built-in documentation, which we took a look at in the previous video, which is in the preferences. You go to plugins, you go to the MBS plugin, and then it's going to have in its preferences, you're going to have autocomplete variable names, but most importantly, autocompleting MBS functions. If you have that turned on, then when you are in your defined calculation, whatever you're doing, we'll just go into this one, and when you type the MBS plugins, MBS, and you know that you actually want graphics magic, is it there? GM image, there it is, GM image. You're going to expand that out. You're going to hit the period, and then it's going to give you a list of all of the other functions. And this is the way that you can learn is by seeing while you're developing what you have access to. Then you can go reference the documentation if you want. And you may even have something where it'll link it out right here. If I go to the GM add noise, you can see that there's a clickable link, which I imagine when I click this is simply going to go to a web page. Or in this case, look at that. He even recognized, oh my gosh, Christian, I didn't even know this. Because usually I just command tab to switch over to the thing. But he's actually got his URL such that he recognizes if you have Dash installed, he actually is going to go open that item in the Dash thing. So I don't even really need to leave FileMaker. All I need to do is take off the items that I'm looking for and, start to type whatever it is that I want it to do. I want to blur this. Okay, I'll just click this and it'll take me right over to that entry in Dash. I didn't even know that as I was recording this video because I've never clicked on the link because I'm stuck with my old habits. So if anything, this wrap up is explore, explore, explore. You will learn a ton of things of what you can, and there's probably not much you can't do with the Monkeybread plugin, but you will learn what you can do. And in the third and final video in this series, I'm going to talk about what I have used, show you an example of my implementation. Because again, remember, one of the things that I like to do is I like to use a wrapper format to implementing my code. So if all of this code right here is, unless it's absolutely necessary that you use it in a script, many times I will use a custom function named whatever I want to do. So I'll go into my custom functions. I will create my custom function called image resize. I will have played with the code in a sample file over here where I put it into a script or I put it into a watch variable, and I will then copy that code into my function and have my function act as a wrapper around the MBS. This gives me the sense of feeling that I know that I have the power of MBS, but if I ever decide to modify or switch, my solution code is calling my custom functions for the most part. I will use the MBS plugin within my solution because you can always use a separate tool. You can export the DDR, or you can use the brand new feature and functionality of the save a copy as XML. Always remember that you can use this and this. This is the newer version. It has more information, but an XML file is searchable. So if I want to find out how many places MBS functions are actually used in the whole of a solution, my first go-to is to export this right here, open it in a text editor, and if it's super large, I'm going to open it in something like Vim or something that will preload and only show partitions. VS Code may be really fast, but I can then search for the function MBS with the parenthesis, with the space or not, using regex, to find out how heavily I've used MBS in the rest of my scripts. Otherwise, the only place that they usually show up for a lot of my solutions is within custom functions, because I'm adapting that code, and that's how I'm implementing into my own solution. So that's the wrap up that I have for this in terms of learning and using the documentation from the MBS. Again, the next video in this 3-part series about the MBS is going to be just fundamentally, where have I used it? What is it good for? And we'll just go through a few of the examples. Of course, you can already do that because you know about the examples folder. Go crazy and see what the MBS can do, because there's pretty much nothing you can't do. It's got everything. All right, much luck, and until next time, happy file making.
We hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial, and we'd like to say thank you for your subscription and your support. If you're not already a subscriber, head on over to www.filemakermagazine.com/subscribe for more information about the benefits of joining.